There's a difference between those who dream about success and the people who actually achieve it. And it has nothing to do with luck, with talent, or really even the connections that people have. This is something that Napoleon Hill really dives into as we continue to go through this book with studying about the laws of success and how you can create success in your life. We are going through the chapter that is all about thought. Now, this is when things start to get really fun inside the book. Everything prior to this, every lesson that we have talked about, everything that we have gone through has all been about how do you create success in the form of a material wealth or have a monetary value to it. Now, that is part of success. Napoleon Hill says that that comes with success. But the closer he got and the more he studied about success, the more he found that there is a deeper level of success that you can achieve that doesn't always have dollar signs to it. He even says in this chapter that success isn't spelled $UCCE dollar sign. It is not about creating more wealth, but it is about attaching to or finding this deeper success that is inside all of us. And by the end, you're going to know exactly what it is you need to do and how to achieve that success. So as he begins, we enter into this new idea of success and what you are capable of creating. And it all comes down to thought, the way that you think about things. We would call this perspective, the way that you come at things, but it's not just how you look at it, but how you come to the conclusion of the things that are happening around you. So he goes through and explains that there are really two kinds of thoughts that we can take on. The first he calls accurate thought. Now, accurate thought has everything to do with the facts that are around you. We are bombarded with information all of the time, more so today than ever before. And so it is imperative that you understand how to separate out facts versus opinion. And this again comes at us from so many different ways. And opinion is often posed as facts. But when you can be relentless in your search for finding truth, for finding what it is that is accurate, what is informative, and most importantly, important. What are the things that are going to be important and relative to your desired outcome, the thing that you want to create? Now, if you don't know what it is that you want to create and you haven't watched the very, very first, it was the second lesson that we did in this series, I highly recommend you go back and watch that because that is key to being able to create that success. If you know what you want, then you can start to apply this level of thinking in order to be able to create it. So the first kind is accurate thought, being able to separate out that thoughts and opinion. Now, if you look at whatever side you're on, if you look at politics, there is going to be misinformation presented from both sides, or information is given and presented as facts. But until we do a little bit of our own digging, do we actually know that it's true? We also have to look at, is this relevant? Because you can get information that is true, but if you don't take the time to recognize, is this relevant to what it is that I'm trying to achieve, to where it is that I want to be able to go? If it's not relevant, then it's going to actually be taking you off track from creating the success that you want to. So look at things and say, is this important? Is this relevant? And is it true? Identifying those things is what's going to help you get to your desired outcome much faster. But that's just the first step. We have to have that accurate information. We have to have the relevant things that are going to be propelling us forward. But if you don't have the second kind of thought, then you will always fall short. And that comes down to creative thought. Now, creative thought goes a little bit deeper than is it true? What creative thought does is it combines new ideas, it combines concepts, it combines knowledge into different ways. How can we take something that maybe exists already and transform it into something new? Stepping into that side of you that was always meant to create. If you can step into that creator side using this creative thought, that is when the magic really starts to happen. Because to activate this creative thought requires a little bit of imagination. It requires a lot of faith, and then connecting into what I would call a divine intelligence. This is what's going to allow you to know what steps to take. What are you going to do to create that something different? What are you going to do with all of these things that have been here in the past to create something new? It requires inspiration in order to be able to do something new. And this is demonstrated perfectly from the 1954 Olympics. Now, before we get there, we're going to back up a little bit. In 1952, they had Olympics, and there was a man named Roger Bannister. Now, Roger was a runner, and he came in fourth place in the 1952 Olympics in the 1500 meter. When he came in, he was crushed that he came in fourth place. He decided he would probably never run again. He knew that it was going to be a challenge, and he was so defeated. And so he took a little bit of time off of running, but he allowed that failure and that disappointment to fuel him to be able to do something different. Now, at the time, Roger Bannister was in medical school, and everyone around him, both in the medical world and the psychologists, all told him that running a 4-minute mile was physically impossible, that no one could do it. It had never been done. People had gotten close, but it wasn't close enough to have them believe that it was possible. And so he decided if he was going to run again, he would only run if he could break this 4-minute mile. And so he went in and he put together this strategic plan. He came in very, very intentional. And so he had a training regimen, and he had pace setters and all of these different things to help him be able to reach his goal. So he started training for the Olympics. Now, his regimen came down to a few days of running and days of no running. He understood the importance of allowing his body to rest before he pushed a little bit harder. So he came in, and in May of 1954, he came to this race. His heart was pounding, but he knew what he was capable of doing. And he ran, and he ran and ran as hard as he could. And he had his pace setters there. Everything was in place for him to be able to run the 4-minute mile. And when he crossed that finish line, the announcer said 3 minutes, and the crowd erupted. No one could hear his exact time, because he proved not only that he was capable of doing something, but he proved that the barriers that we have to break aren't always physical, that oftentimes they are the mental barriers, the beliefs of that can't be done. You can't do that. Who are you to do those things? We come up against these mental barriers all the time. If you want to overcome these mental barriers, it requires you to step into this creative thought. Roger Bannister didn't wake up a year before and say, I think I'm going to go to the Olympics, and maybe I'll break a world record. It was something that he was very deliberate at. He strategically planned out everything he needed in order to be able to reach that goal. And so that sets up an example of what we need to do to activate this creative thought. We need to have a strategic plan. Now, this goes beyond business planning. This is not where you're showing up on social media. This is not what you need to do to get more clients. This goes beyond that business strategy. And it requires you to sit down and be present, where you can listen to that intuition, listen to the thoughts that come into your head. And what is it that I can do in order to be able to create that outcome that I'm looking for? What Roger Bannister did was he refused to accept the limitations that were placed on him by thousands of people. The entire medical world was against him, and he did not allow those limitations to stop him. He allowed that creative thinking to know what was possible for him, and he didn't allow the impossible to define what he could do. And that is exactly what you are capable of doing as well. You can step into this place that you're in and create something new that will change maybe the world, but definitely the people in your circle. Napoleon Hill comes in this chapter and talks about what is a prosperous life. So we started this saying that it isn't always that external wealth, though that comes with it, but it is more about the internal connection. Roger Bannister needed to believe what he was capable of doing and ignore the research and everything on the outside of what people were telling him. It comes back to that principle that we've discussed before about that self-confidence. If you can bring in that self-confidence, when you achieve your goal, you'll recognize that it actually wasn't, that confidence didn't come from you inside. It came from that divine intelligence that was giving you the path all along. Success is a multifaceted thing. It is, yes, the external wealth, but it is also the meaningful relationships in your life. It's also about service to others. You can define success in so many different ways, but it's that internal side that allows you to see exactly where it is that you are going and what it is that you're trying to create. It's about that spiritual development and having that character build inside of you. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with is a quote from Napoleon Hill. And he says, remember that real wealth can be measured not by what you have, but by who you are. When you know how to create success, it comes down to, can you create? Can you create something that you desire, something that you make in your head, something that you pull out of thin air, something that you take this element and combine them together to create something? Success comes down when that internal connection is solid and you know exactly where that inspiration comes from in order to be able to create that success that you desire.